Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today we're going to be talking about IDP Week 13 recap and a Week 14 prediction. With us today is a special guest making his first appearance with the Front Office Pros, which is none other than Scott Bogman. Scott is a contributor at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, and he's the co-host of the In This League Fantasy Football Podcast. Scott, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the invite being here. You guys have been crushing it. So I am excited to be joining you to talk some IDP. The individual podcast has gone away for me, but if you guys are looking for my IDP work, I do rank at Fantasy Pros, and I also write the IDPs for the Joe Pisapia's Fantasy Black Book. So that is where my IDP work can be found. So thank you guys for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. We already have done our own show before this show. That was also a lot of fun.
Hike. Yes, we have.
That's very true, Scott. So let's start off with our IDP stud from Week 13. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with Jack Gibbons, guys, and 9 solos, 4 assists, so 13 tackles added in, pass defended, all on only 42 snaps, which was, I believe, just above 50%. And that's making a play on a third of the snaps that he was in on. So very impressive. Helped me win a week in the Football Diehards League from the guys over at Diehards. It's a big 32-man league that we're in there. And Gibbons put up a huge week for us, and I was very excited with that. So if I have a chance to give him some praise, I will do it here on your show. So Gibbons is my stud for Week 13.
Yeah, Gibbons is an interesting name there. I would say definitely not a household name. I think you probably would agree with this. Came out of Minnesota. Was he even? I'm not even sure. Was he even drafted? Was he an undrafted linebacker?
I don't think he was drafted. I may be mistaken there, but I don't think he was drafted.
Yeah, signed as an undrafted free agent in 2022.
Okay, yeah. So he's kind of one of these no-namer guys here. Like you said,
made everybody forget about Monty Rice. So.
Which is surprising. So do you think, I mean, if you look at his year, I mean, recently, I mean, he's been pretty pitiful. Is this a blip on the radar here, or are we expecting some, more juice from him coming up in the next few weeks?
Yeah, he doesn't get enough snaps. Now, he did have a stretch there at the beginning of the season from like week 3 to week 9. He only dipped below 70% of the snaps once. So that was a nice little stretch for him. But then coming back week 10, below 50 week 11, below 50 week 12. This week was 59%, and he had a huge week. So maybe there's something there for him. But also, if anything happens to Al-Shaair, he's the next man up. So that, like I said, that is a 32-man league. So that's why I started Jack Gibbons in that one. Yeah, I mean, not a household name, maybe doesn't deserve to be a household name either, but we're talking about studs for last week, and he absolutely was one. So I like him. I like him. I wish he got more playing time, but I will accept it when he puts up points for me and wins me money.
No, go ahead, Joe.
No, I mean, when I saw this guy's name on the sheet, I was like, man, Scott's going deep with this pick here.
I got to give my boy some
league makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, he's rostered in our 16-man league, and in other IDP leagues, would you suggest others add this guy, or you think that there's a blip on the radar here? Like, what are you doing with Mr. Gibbons?
I mean, I think you could potentially add him, and like you said, if Aziz goes down, Al-Shaair, and he gets more playing time, is the next man up. It could be worth a shot and stash him on your bench if nothing else.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We'll have to monitor him going forward.
Who's Tennessee playing this week again? Because if they're playing, is it Baltimore? Am I right there? Maybe not.
Tennessee?
Yeah, Tennessee
playing
playing Miami. There might be some tackles for him there. He's probably going to be on the field a lot. So just because the Dolphins offense is going to be on the field a lot. So,
Yeah, it's going to be a track meet. He's going to be chasing after some guys just blazing right by him.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, you get a hand on A-Chain, he's probably going to go down, but not many guys doing that these days. So,
yeah, it definitely tough is to get that hand on him.
Yeah.
So, Joe, who is your stud from Week 13?
Yeah, I'm going with Antoine Winfield Jr. He had 6 solos, 1 assist, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, quarterback hit, interception, and 3 pass deflections. And the Bucs defense, really needed him to step up this week, as they were missing their top 3 linebackers in this game. So I know they had Ryan Neal playing a lot more to fill in for that as well. But obviously he stepped up and had a big game.
Antoine Winfield is having a phenomenal year. If you look at his stats, he's going to be on pace to have a career year. And I don't know what he's like in your league, Scott, but for Joe and I's league, he's the top safety right now in the league, and it's really not even close. He's got a couple fantasy points per game spread over the next highest guy, which in our league is Jesse Bates and then Cameron Bynum. So Winfield, man, he is having a phenomenal season this year. Will be really interesting. I believe he's a free agent in this next season. I believe he's a second-round pick. This is his 4th year in the NFL. So I'm going to be really curious to see, does Tampa Bay decide to lock this guy up, or is he going to be a free agent? And who knows what will happen to him. But I'm with you, Joe. I think with Levante David and Devin White missing the game, I mean, it only helped him be able to secure more tackles. But, yeah, no, I like that call out for sure. He's been great.
Huge for him. I mean, he has been so good this year. I just, I wish they would have covered the spread against the Panthers, but yeah, I mean, the guy has been outstanding in my league. I play in tackle heavy leagues. He is on a per game basis number 2 behind Jesse Bates. So Jesse Bates also has 5 picks and I think at least 1 tutty. So Bates having an outstanding year. Then Winfield for me in a per game basis. Reed Blankenship and Bland and Bynum are the only guys averaging over 12 points per game in my tackle heavy format. So
for me, we're going to stick with the DB room for me for my stud of the week, but I'm going to go with Derek Stingley Jr. Joe, you and I watched this game last Sunday.
You just had to do it, Steve.
Well, with the Broncos, with the Broncos of Texas, man, he made such an impact. Think about Stingley was, he missed 7 games this season due to a hamstring injury. During the draft process, he was injured with that Liz Frank injury. So many in the draft were wondering, hey, this guy's super talented, but is he going to be able to stay healthy? That was the big wonder. Then you saw him drafted ahead of Sauce Gardner, which obviously people were saying oohs and ahs, when it comes to that, but it was the Houston Texans. So, of course, they're going to, reach and take the guy that maybe they shouldn't have. But I'll tell you what, Stingley has been on a great pace of late. Over the past 3 games, he's had 4 interceptions. And I got to tell you, I mean, Joe, you could attest to this because you were watching with me. I mean, he really made such an impact in that game. 2 tackles, 4 passes, 4 pass deflections, 2 interceptions.
That second one was one of the more absurd plays I've seen this year. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was a gambler move because if he alligator armed it and Sutton caught it, it was to the house.
For sure. Yeah. Well, no Marcus Peters here. So he got it. He pulled it down.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, to me, here's the cornerback is the forgotten man in IDP leagues, but, I feel like Stingley's showing a lot of promise. I mean, I think you've got to be pretty happy if you own him. I mean, are there, even better things to come for him, or is this just kind of a blip on the radar? We know with IDP, those blips can happen. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think that this is the year for stuff to happen for him because if he keeps playing like this down the stretch, they're just going to quit throwing at him. So he's getting tested a little bit and he is winning those tests right now. So it doesn't mean that he's going to have these huge weeks every single week. Definitely not. And maybe this week we see, the bounce off of it and they're just not throwing the ball his way because he sealed that game. So, that was a huge play for him. I really think the Broncos probably should have won that game. I really wish they would have thrown the ball to Sutton at the end of the game there. And, Russell
they did in motion, and apparently with Sean Payton that threw everything off. Sutton wasn't just supposed to stand behind the line of scrimmage.
Oh, he wasn't?
Nah. No, the play was not designed to crawl in the end zone. Sean Payton said they were supposed to shift. The shift didn't happen, and then everybody didn't know what route to run because Russell Wilson didn't do shift. So.
They ran a play out of the Panthers playbook and it didn't work. So, but Stingley, like I said, maybe this week we get it where, corners are so hit or miss anyway. So maybe they stay away from him this week, but I don't know. I think he's a young guy. They're still going to test him a little bit. He won the test this week. So we'll see what ends up happening there. So.
Well, it's interesting. His next 2 games, he's got the Jets. That should be pretty good, depending on what goes on there. He's got the Titans, which should be pretty good. Cleveland, and then the Titans. So, that's a pretty decent stretch. You could probably keep that pick streak alive here.
Yeah, for sure. Like we said, that second pick was crazy, man. Russell Wilson thought he had an easy completion to Sutton. Sutton thought he had a touchdown. He did not expect Stingley to jump out in front of him. But I tell you, too, if their D-line keeps pressuring the way they do, that will lead to interceptions. Obviously, we know D-line and the corners work together. And, Anderson getting that tip set up his first one as well. So if that keeps happening, as long as, to Scott's point here, it's very simple. These corners show that they can start shutting down guys, and they're going to look to the other side of the ball.
So are you enjoying this video so far? Well, if you are, show your support to our new channel by hitting the subscribe button and liking this video. We'll be creating videos all NFL season long, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store. So going over to our duds, gentlemen. Scott, what do you have as your dud?
How about a bigger name than Jack Gibbons? How about Micah Parsons? I'll go with him. And look, obviously one of the best, if not the best defensive player in the NFL. But 1 tackle, 1 assist, and he's had a couple other bad games that are under. I think he's only had a couple games under like 9 points, at least in the way my tackle heavy scoring is. But they smoked the Giants, so just not a lot of opportunity. They got beat up by the Niners, so okay. I know he had an illness on Tuesday before this game, and this was a Thursday night game, but this was not a normal 4 days rest Thursday night football game. They played on Thanksgiving. So, and the Seahawks did. So both these teams had a week of rest coming in, which is why we finally had a good Thursday night game. And now everyone's making Jeffrey Dahmer memes about Mitchell Trubisky versus Bailey Zappi or whatever we're going to get this week for Thursday night football. It's going to be an ugly game for sure. But Micah Parsons was rested up, and they threw 41 times, the Seahawks did, against the Cowboys. The only other team to throw that many times against the Cowboys was Washington the week before this, and he had a sack and a half, and they threw only 3 more times. Sam Howell gives away sacks like he's Oprah giving away cars, right? I understand that, but he has gotten better in the second half, but they didn't have a sack as a team against Geno. He got the ball out fast. He looked great. So I expect him to have a big week this week, kind of playing angry and all that stuff, getting shut out. It's against Philly as well. So there's a lot of heat there. But yeah, this was a dud. A tackle, 1 solo, 1 assist for him that is not what you paid for him wherever you have Micah Parsons.
I don't know. Is Micah going to play it a little soft against the Eagles? Is he low-key trying to join the Eagles? With all his
What? No.
You haven't seen that?
What Eagles fan sent you this is what I want to know.
I have not seen that, but that doesn't. Come on, they're rivals. You can't low key be playing for the other team.
He went to Penn State. He grew up an Eagles fan. Is that what you're trying to say there? Yeah, I don't care. He's a Cowboy now. Eagles didn't pick him. Cowboys did. They paid him. So I think he's loyal to the employer. I don't think
he's loyal to Jerry.
Yeah, I don't think he's dogging for the Eagles. So no way.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think so either.
Here's the thing. I think that it's interesting because I think Parsons, I want to say he's in like the top 5 for pressures. But the problem is it's not converting into sacks. That's the tough part.
No Myles Garrett this year. So Myles Garrett's having a crazy year.
He really is.
Yeah, he is.
So Joe, who's your dud for week 13?
I'm going to go with Vita Vea. Steve, I don't know what you did to him, but ever since you traded him away in our league, he just hasn't been the same. He had 1 solo tackle and 1 assist. He goosed people last week. He played 64% of snaps, had a win rate of 4.6% and a pressure rate of 0%, in this game. Just overall disappointment from him on Sunday.
especially playing the Panthers.
Yeah.
I mean, Bryce Young has got very few Mississippis to get rid of the ball this year. So, and Vita Vea should have had him at least once. And yeah, I mean, it's frustrating when the matchup is so good and then you get no results. So yeah, that is it. Most of the time you can't put a DT on a disappointment list because they're liable to eat a donut at any point for you. But this one should have paid off and it didn't. So I'm with you.
Well, that's the thing. Vita Vega's had a great year. I mean, I believe this might be the most sacks he's had in his career. He's really a good. I mean, he has the ability to rush the passer, but he's just a massive man. He's just a clogger, in that middle of the defense. So, I mean, you're right. The matchup was there, and it didn't pan out. We interesting. You're right. Since I did trade him away, you're right. I guess I traded him at the right time. Maybe he's not motivated anymore. He's not on my team.
Yeah, I guess he's not. He's not motivated for the new owner.
He's dogging for the Eagles, I think.
Oh boy,
that's what it is.
Oh boy, it may be. So my dud from week 13 is going to be Chase Young. He had one QB hit, and if your league doesn't account for QB hits, well, then he got you a goose egg. The silver lining in all this, so fellas, is that Chase Young, although he only played 36 total snaps, he had 7 total pressures, including the QB hit. So since Chase Young has come to the 49ers, he is top 5 for edge rushers in total pressures with 16 total pressures. So I ask you, what do you do if you own Chase Young? He's not getting the sacks. He's not producing, but he's getting the pressures. He's just not finishing the plays. So what do you do with Chase Young? Are you starting him? Are you benching him? What are you doing with Chase Young right now?
I think for me, I'm usually starting him, and because those numbers will turn. As long as you keep putting the pressure on, good things are going to happen. So, and he's still learning the cadence of this defense and where he needs to line up versus his teammates and all that stuff. So it is a bit of a learning process, and he's still getting home. He's just not getting the results that we want. So I think it's going to turn pretty quick. And there are not many teams that are going to be up late more than the Niners and have more chances at pinning their ears back and getting after QB. So I'm still rolling out Chase Young.
Yeah, I would still roll him out too. I mean, and you're not hard to find a guy that's going to have more talented players around him and the ability to just go and get him. And, you mentioned being up in the game is huge as well, but they also keep him fresh on a rotation. Like you said, he didn't play a whole lot of snaps. So, I mean, Jalen Hurts I feel like is a tough quarterback to actually sack. He's mobile, gets out of it. So I think definitely better matchups to come, and he'll get his.
Will be fascinating to see what happens in I want to say because the Commanders declined his 5th-year option, he's going to be a free agent next year. Does he re-sign with the Niners? Does he try to get as much big money as he can? I think he's just a name really at this point. I don't know if he could really secure a huge money deal, but league is desperate for pass rushers. I mean, you just
gonna go to the Falcons and suck.
There you go. Go to the Falcons. They pay him a ton of money because all they got is Arnold Ebiketie, and he's not doing well very much. I guess Bud Dupree has been decent of late, but it's been more chase down sacks like we were talking about earlier, Scott. So yeah, it should be interesting to see what ends up happening with Chase Young. I'm very curious about that one. So going over to our IDP Pro Tip of the Weeks for Week 14, we got a prediction for you, Scott. What are you telling the folks at home here?
How about Ernest Jones to get another 15 tackles like he did this week? I almost put him as my stud, but I thought that's a little too easy. So with Jack Gibbons, so obviously a little too down the road, as you guys have mentioned here. But let's give Ernest some props here. Huge game for him. He's 100%er. I think he's calling plays for them as well. And they're playing the run-heavy Ravens on the road this week. I think the Ravens are going to possess the ball for a lot of this game. Their defense has been strong. They're coming off a bye week, so they're gassed up and ready to go. So I think Ernest Jones is going to be on the field a lot, which leads to more tackle opportunities, which means he's going to pile them up this week. So that is my prediction for Week 14. Ernest Jones gets 15 tackle game in back-to-back weeks because he had one last week as well.
Joe, that must be music to your ears.
Yeah, I tell you, man, I saw it on the sheet. I was pretty happy, and I've been a happy Ernest Jones owner as well.
So, Joe, who is your IDP Pro Tip of the Week for Week 14?
Yeah, I didn't talk about this guy last week, but I'm going to go with Andrew Van Ginkel. Jalen Phillips is out for the year, and we've seen it last week. Andrew Van Ginkel just takes advantage of his opportunities when he gets the start. And I look, you fire him up again this week. They get to face the Titans, and the Titans just came off a game where they gave up 6 sacks to the Colts last week.
Oh yeah, I mean Samson Ebukam, absolutely destroyed. I want to say who was the other one? Was it Kwity Paye? Also, I think they got a ton of action as well. I mean, they just absolutely swarmed them. So I do like that. I like that call out a lot for you, Joe.
Yeah, I can't say he's going to get another pick 6 in this game, but he just plays so hard and is just I feel like he's just a wild man when he gets the chance to play.
Maybe Tyler Boyd's throwing the ball again. So, but
that was absolutely terrible.
I mean, it didn't cost him the game somehow, but
right.
Because the Jags choked. But yeah, that just a terrible play. And I mean, Van Ginkel is one of those guys that it's just like every single time that he gets the opportunity, he shines, and then he goes back to a bench role. So now that Phillips is down, I expect him to have some huge weeks here. So I'm with you.
So my IDP pro tip of the week for week 14 is to go ahead and make sure you add, if he's out there in your league, which I think he will be, safety John Johnson. Since the bye week in week 10, his snaps counts have been on the rise. And especially over the past 2 games, he's had the most snaps or tied with the most snaps with Jordan Fuller. I want to say he had 71 snaps last week against his former team, the Cleveland Browns. Remember that John Johnson became a star with the LA Rams before signing that big money deal with the Cleveland Browns. He had 1 solo tackle, 5 assists, 2 pass deflections, and that interception. I'd highly recommend adding him. And based on his playoff schedule, it's looking pretty solid. He's got games against the Commanders, the Saints, and the Giants. So all 3 of them are going to be very good matchups for him. So I know he's available in our league too, Joe. You need a safety. You might want to go pick him up.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
it's the ultimate disrespectful move there, by the way. It is telling somebody else who does a show with you who they should go pick up. So
Scott, it's not the first time he's done this, but
I'm not surprised.
I don't have any cap left, Steve, so I can't go and pick up John Johnson. And
you have $0 pickups? Come on.
Well, we do for minor players, and he doesn't fit the bill.
I think you need to fix that. Yeah, got it. I mean, because I run out of money so fast, I would be burned in that league.
I think I'm okay. I picked up PJ Locke for $0 last week.
Okay.
He's been playing well with Kareem Jackson out. I'm gonna probably roll with him.
That's your Broncos fandom showing, Joe.
Not taking your advice, Steve. Also, direct slap in the face. So I'm just here to stoke the fire. So
he's just been performing. He had a sack fumble last week. He's been scoring 20 points in our league. So.
All right, Scott, you're the tiebreaker here. What do you think? Is John Johnson worth the pickup?
Not if you can't afford him. So then no, you can't afford him. So look, he is worth a pickup in most leagues, but if you have $0, then you can't go get him. But yeah, he's a decent ad for sure.
All right, I'll take that as a consolation prize.
Well, I'm surprised you don't pick him up, Stevie. You had this guy. He's burned.
Yeah. This is your genius move. Why isn't he on your team? Come on.
I'm taking. Why do I need him? I'm trying to lose. I'm not trying to win. I gotta, let other people have him.
The New England Patriots of this league.
Keep him and re-sign him for the future. You traded all your young safeties away. If you want to compete next year, you're going to need a wily vet to put in the safety position.
Yeah, that's a decent point. I have to look into
Sounds
that.
like he wants you to cut somebody. So,
hey, unless it's a minor player, I can't pick him up. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that is fair. Well, Scott, thanks so much for joining the show today. Where can others find your great work?
Yeah, follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. Like I said, the In This League Fantasy Football Show. Our Patreon is over there at inthisleague.com as well. Myself and the Welsh have been working on the fantasy land here since 2014. So we're coming up on that 10-year anniversary next season. So really excited for that. And you can catch my work over at Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros. I'm doing a lot of football stuff. Baseball season's rolling around. Starting to do some baseball stuff over at In This League as well. I'm on CFP Winning Edge with my buddies Nick and Xavier. Yeah, I know I'm leaving somebody out. I apologize. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do. So yeah, I'm doing a lot these days. you know, it beats digging ditches. I love it. So thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate the invite. This is fun.
Oh, you're welcome, Scott. And for those who maybe don't know Scott at this point, go ahead and check out his great work. I highly recommend what he's got out there. We'll be back next week for week 14 IDP recap and the week 15 prediction with another IDP guest. We look forward to that. Make sure you tune in next week. And until next time.